Inside the Magic, show number 355 for January 22nd, 2012. It is Sunday, January 22nd, 2012. This is show 355 of Inside the Magic, and as always, I'm your host, Ricky Briganti. We have a rather patriotic show this week for a very good reason. Of course, packed with plenty of Disney and theme park news and a whole lot more fun. Before we get to all of that, I do invite you to visit InsideTheMagic.net. There you'll find all of our podcasts, videos, photos, news, articles, and so much more. And if you ever have any news, tips, or questions, you can always write to me at ricky@InsideTheMagic.net, or you can call and leave a message at 407-494-4ITM. That's 4486. And now, let's get on with the show. This week's episode of Inside the Magic is brought to you by Magical Travel. Find out why Adventures by Disney has been announced as the world's leading luxury tour operator. You can plan your adventure today. Will it be in North America, South America? How about Europe? Perhaps a more exotic locale like China or Egypt? Whenever the destination is, Adventures by Disney is ready to take you there, and you can book that trip by calling Magical Travel today at 866-207-8387, or visit them online at magicaltravel.com to receive a free price quote. And be sure to mention Inside the Magic to receive your free Disney gift card for qualifying bookings when you book your Disney vacation with Magical Travel. And by the folks over at Audible, you can actually get a free audiobook download as well as access to over 85,000 titles to choose from for your iPod or MP3 player by signing up for a free Audible trial at audibletrial.com/Inside the Magic. And of course, thanks very much to listeners and viewers like you, everybody who has signed up for monthly recurring donations, one-time donations, or clicking through any of the affiliate links over at InsideTheMagic.net. It all goes to support the show, and thank you very much for that. And now, let's start off the show with our trip around the world. It was a very surprising week in the world of Disney this week. Before we get to the surprising news, I want to make a real quick mention. I want to say thank you to everybody who has been watching our videos over on YouTube. Just a couple of days ago, we jumped past 20 million all-time video views on our YouTube channel and topped 21,000 subscribers. So thanks very much for that. With that mention aside, let's get to the surprising news of the week. There were some big changes in scheduling kind of floating around as far as entertainment at Walt Disney World. Early in the week, everybody was wondering what exactly is going on. Some extra magic hours were moved around, and entertainment schedules were changed, and it seemed like things were shifting away from the Magic Kingdom for some reason. There were rumors as to exactly what was going on, and then finally it was all confirmed that President Barack Obama was to be appearing at Walt Disney World this week on Thursday to talk about tourism, and he did just that. He spoke in front of Cinderella Castle at the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World, and his speech was centering on a new executive order making it easier for non-immigrant visas to be granted, particularly for those visiting the United States from China and Brazil, adding additional jobs for processing those visas. It's all part of his We Can't Wait initiative, meaning we can't wait for Congress. He's just putting this through. So it was a pretty big deal to have President Obama come to the Magic Kingdom, and I want to share a little bit of his speech. I'm not going to play the entire speech here. It began at 12:35 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday. There was video online, and I have posted the whole video of his whole speech over at InsideTheMagic.net. But right now I want to share just a few highlights from the speech for you because, well, there were definitely some Disney moments that are worth sharing here that aren't too political, just some fun moments. So let's hop on over to the Magic Kingdom now, and I'll turn it over to our President of the United States for just a few quick video and audio clips that were the most amusing of the group for Disney fans.
Hello, everybody. I am glad to be at Disney World. The Magic Kingdom. This is outstanding.
So that was just an introduction. He went on just a few seconds later to say the following.
It is great to be here. It is rare that I get to do something that Sasha and Malia envy me for. That doesn't happen very often. Maybe for once they'll actually ask me at dinner how my day went. And I confess I am excited to see Mickey. It's always nice to meet a world leader who has bigger ears than me.
That was definitely the big joke that President Obama gave there, but he had a few more mentions that were definitely Disney-specific as well. Here's one of them.
And we're going to see how we can attract more tourists to our national parks. We want people visiting not just Epcot Center, but the Everglades too.
And notice he did call it Epcot Center. Of course, whether he knew it or not, a throwback to Epcot's old name from years ago, one that retro Walt Disney World fans are certainly excited to hear. It may have been his speechwriter, it may have been him, it may have just simply been a mistake. It's certainly not called Epcot Center anymore, but it was good to hear that. And then one final note toward the end. Here was kind of the conclusion of his speech, where there was a little bit of a minor slip-up in what he said, but it all ended on a good note. So here is the last part.
They know what the American dream's been all about. And a place like Disneyland represents that quintessentially American spirit. This image is something that's recognized all around the world. And this weather is something that people appreciate all around the world, including the northern parts of this country. So we want everybody to come, all who are watching. Disney World and Florida are open for business, but we want people all around the world to know the same, and we are going to do everything we can to make sure that we're continuing to boost tourism for decades to come.
And there you have it. That was the conclusion of President Barack Obama's speech at the Magic Kingdom. Of course, there he mentioned Disneyland instead of Walt Disney World. What he said still certainly applied to both Disneyland and Disney World, but he was standing in Walt Disney World at the time, which he then said just a couple of sentences later. So no big deal there. The exciting part about it all, as far as America is concerned, is that Obama is committed to, as he put it, making the United States the world's top tourist destination. Apparently, in 2010, we actually came in second place around the world. France was about 27 million people ahead of us when it came to tourism in 2010. So Obama's looking to put the United States higher on that list because it's just so difficult for international tourists to get into the country and get those international travel visas. Lots of paperwork and issues trying to get in, of course, for security reasons, for very good reasons, but he's working now to make that a bit easier, and that's what this talk was all about. Now, of course, a president coming to Walt Disney World is not it's not the first time that has ever happened, but it is certainly a rarity. It's been a number of years since the last standing president came to Walt Disney World, and as such, there were many security precautions taken. In fact, Disney was actually this week trying to almost lure people away from the Magic Kingdom, trying to really de-emphasize the president's visit in order to get the easiest time, the least inconvenience for guests. So throughout that morning, from the park opening, Main Street USA at the Magic Kingdom was actually walled off by sort of construction walls beginning in Town Square, completely closed from Town Square all the way up through the castle and around the hub. The entire surrounding area was filled with security and Secret Service agents, and the public, the guests who were there at the Magic Kingdom, were not able to see President Obama at any point in person. You weren't able to get anywhere near the president. Only those officially and specifically invited by the White House were there in attendance actually at the speech, which was just a select group of people. Bob Iger, president and CEO of Disney, was there, as was Tom Staggs, head of Walt Disney Parks and Resorts, and a number of other Disney people, as well as some media and plenty of White House staff and related estimated groups of people who were there and invited. So how did people get around? How did guests get around the Magic Kingdom? Well, Disney opened up the backstage area to the right of Main Street, which is normally used for sort of crowd guest overflow areas on really, really busy days like July 4th and New Year's Eve. And they opened it up to bypass Main Street USA, essentially. And back there, they added parade floats. They pulled out some Spectrum Magic floats, some Christmas floats, some Halloween floats, set those up, had music blasting, had lots of cast members and dancing and banners and colorful flags and all of that. Really decorated it up so that guests wouldn't feel like they were just walking through a backstage area, which was nice. And from what I've heard, it wasn't actually that bad. You would think closing off Main Street USA for half the day. It ended up reopening at about 2 p.m. or so after Obama was gone, and he actually left Central Florida immediately after his speech, or shortly thereafter, to go to another event up in New York later in the day. And so throughout that first half of the day, you would think having Main Street USA closed would be a huge issue to enjoying the Magic Kingdom, but it ended up not being so bad. Apparently, Disney did a good job sort of redirecting everybody to other parks. They added extra magic hours to the other 3 parks. They actually added a special fireworks show to Disney's Hollywood Studios as well, which we'll talk about more in just a minute. So the goal was really to make it as smooth and well-flowing as they possibly could, and that is exactly what they did. I didn't really hear too many complaints from anybody who was at the Magic Kingdom on Thursday that the president's appearance really got in their way all that much. For those who were interested in seeing what the president was speaking about, Disney opened up the Hall of Presidents, not to watch, animatronic Obama, but instead had on the big projection screen in there, you could watch the live video feed of what Obama was saying just down the way in front of Cinderella Castle. His podium was set up there in front of the Partners statue. And, it's unfortunate that park guests couldn't see President Obama in person, but it was at least nice that they were able to see the what was unfolding in real time from the Hall of Presidents. There was no word as to whether or not Obama had a chance to visit the Hall of Presidents and see his audio animatronic figure. There haven't been any images released of them posing together or anything like that. It seems like he probably didn't have a chance to go over there, at least for any kind of an official photo op. What was a nice moment, though, at the very tail end of his speech was right after what you just heard, the last bit. He, said thank you, and then he turned around and actually waved to the partner statue, to Walt Disney, who's waving, and to Mickey Mouse as well. Just a quick moment. That was a nice touch there at the end of his speech at Walt Disney World. So, not too much of a hassle. It was about a half-a-day event, certainly a lot leading up to it, and a lot of concern as to how Disney would handle the whole event. As I said earlier, it's certainly not the first time a president has been to Walt Disney World. In the past, Richard Nixon, Jimmy Carter, Gerald Ford, Ronald Reagan, and George Bush Sr. all visited the various theme parks for various events at Walt Disney World, and they've all gone out mostly without a hitch. Of course, everybody knows the notorious incident with Richard Nixon being at the Contemporary delivering his "I am not a crook" speech. That was probably the biggest event to come out of a presidential visit, but that had nothing to do with Disney, really, other than the fact that it happened to be at the Contemporary. So that's about it for the biggest news of the week. President Obama visiting Walt Disney World is something that was not announced in advance, just kind of all of a sudden happened and went and was over. But the real excitement of that, as I just mentioned, for anybody who was either deciding to go to a different park than the Magic Kingdom as a result of it, or people who just wanted a little extra entertainment like I did, Disney was offering a special one-night-only fireworks show at Disney's Hollywood Studios. They called it Rock the Night, and I did go and really, really enjoyed it, and I'll be talking about that show a little bit more on this week's show, so stay tuned for that. So let's move on past that topic completely. In fact, let's jump to a whole different set of parks entirely. Let's talk about Universal Orlando here for just a moment, where this week, Universal Orlando announced plans to reveal details, artwork, pictures, and video of new experiences that they're going to be debuting this year, 2012. It's all going to be announced and revealed in a media-only webcast next Wednesday, actually this coming Wednesday, just a few days from now, January 25th at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. Universal says they'll be talking about the Despicable Me attraction that they've announced and are working on, the upgrades to the Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man, the HD upgrades. Likely, they will also be talking about the Hollywood Drive-In mini golf that's been under construction at City Walk. And in addition, Universal Studios, the company, the movie studio, is celebrating its 100th anniversary, and it seems like that will indeed be the tie-in for the so far unannounced, but seems like it's going to be announced very soon, entertainment experiences. They're putting it the Lagoon Show with fountains and projections and all kinds of cool stuff over in their lagoon at Universal Studios Florida, as well as potentially a new parade for the park as well. Of course, that stuff hasn't been announced yet officially, but that's likely what will be discussed in just a few days. Universal has officially said that they will not be discussing what is replacing the Jaws ride yet. So that will not be part of it. They actually said, quote, that they said that they will be sharing, quote, more entertainment experiences for you in 2012 than any other year in our history, end quote. So I think that would be true if they have got a new Despicable Me attraction, an upgrade to Spider-Man, a mini golf course, a new Lagoon Show, and a new parade all within the same year. That is not bad. What about Harry Potter? Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to wait and see. So be sure to head over to InsideTheMagic.net. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook. On Wednesday, January 25th, 10:30 a.m. Eastern is when all of that will be announced. Now let's hop coast over to the Disneyland Resort, where something new is going on there on a temporary basis just for a few days. It's now, actually began a couple of days ago, through January 29th. Disneyland is putting on the Happy Lunar New Year celebration, celebrating the Chinese, Korean, and Vietnamese Lunar New Year. Included amongst the Lunar New Year celebration events from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. over at the Small World Mall, character appearances and live performances with Chinese Dragon Dance Troupe, Lion Dancers, Ribbon Wand dancers, Korean drummers, Vietnamese musicians and dancers, and martial artists. In addition, there will be Mulan's Chinese New Year procession with Mulan and Mushu, as well as Chip and Dale dressed in Asian-inspired outfits. Throughout the area, there's Chinese zodiac symbols, ornamental lanterns, and Happy Lunar New Year banners, as well as some special food carts, serving up foods like chocolate churros, egg rolls, edamame, and almond cookies. I'm not sure that chocolate churros are Asian-inspired. That doesn't seem, I don't know, I could be wrong, but the other ones certainly are Asian dishes. Sounds like a fun little extra bit of entertainment for Disneyland. And also at the Disneyland Resort, a momentous occasion this week, something that's been a long time in the making. Disneyland Hotel has officially celebrated the completion of its largest renovation in the hotel's history. It took more than 2 years for the whole thing to be completed. It includes the new pools, restaurant upgrades, the new Trader Sam's and bar and room upgrades, the exterior of the hotels, the towers, the lobbies. It's all been redone. If you haven't been to Disneyland Hotel in more than 2 years, you're in for a treat when you head back there next time, because it really has been upgraded and is a great hotel once again. Now, here's something interesting that's sprung up this week, though it's been a long time in the making as well. It's actually an online Disney Parks sort of initiative that they're calling the Disney Parks Inside Ears. That's insiders, but with an ears at the end. And they're calling it, quote, a whole new world for people who love Disneyland Resort and Walt Disney World Resort, end quote. Basically, it's going to be similar to the Walt Disney World Moms Panel, though not the same thing, in which select fans of Disney will be able to hop online, they kind of go through a registration process, answer some questions as part of a general quiz, and then a specialty couple of quizzes as well, and you'll be able to aid in answering travel planning questions. It's some, sort of a Disney community, an official Disney community online. It's not all officially launched yet. Eventually, it will be at DisneyParksInsideEars.com. This week, they sent out about 1,000 invitations to select Disney enthusiasts. They tried to split it between people they thought would be roughly 500 Disneyland-oriented and 500 Walt Disney World-oriented, and I'm happy to say I was one of the roughly 1,000 invitations. Of course, when I went to go register and everything, there were some technical difficulties, and Disney's well aware of that, which is why the site is not completely live yet. So stay tuned for that. They'll be relaunching the website, or officially launching the website at some point in the near future, and ultimately will be open for everybody to take the quiz and join in and become an inside ear. They'll be talking more about how that will be possible, but at the very least, in the near future, you can look for me to be one of Disney's first Disney Parks inside ears. Let's move over to Hawaii now, where here's a quick special offer. If you're thinking about going to Disney's new hotel, Aulani, out in Hawaii, Disney's offering a 6th night free plus complimentary breakfast if you book a 5-night consecutive stay. So you can turn your 5-night stay into 6 for no extra charge. And now, in the world of movies, a movie that I really, really enjoyed, as did many Disney fans, and particularly these guys who are behind me here, for those of you watching the video version of the show, it is indeed The Muppets, and it's coming home to DVD and Blu-ray and digital download and all that good stuff on March 20th. That's the official release date in the United States. There's going to be a few different versions that you can get, like I said, Blu-ray, DVD, etc., etc. There's some special versions, though. There's one they're calling the Waka Waka Value Pack, and that's going to include not only the movie in a few different formats, but also a download card for the soundtrack to the film, which is something that has been very popular. On the home release, the Blu-ray release of The Muppets, Disney's introducing something brand new that they've never done before called Disney Intermission. Basically, you're going to be watching The Muppets at home. You're going to hit pause. Let's say you need to go get a snack or something. And when you hit pause, the Muppets will take over the screen and entertain while the movie is, it's on pause. So you might want to just hit pause and not actually go anywhere, because you'll be able to watch the fun and the Muppets and all the hilarity and everything. In addition to that, there's many bonus features that'll be on there, including one called Explaining Evil, the full Tex Richmond song. And if you've seen the movie, you only saw part of the Tex Richmond song. Apparently, you'll know more about that character and his backstory and why he dislikes the Muppets. There will, of course, be some commentary on there and some other good stuff as well. So March 20th is the date for that. You can pre-order it now. I will make that this week's featured item, so check the show 355 section of the Inside the Magic website to find the link to pre-order The Muppets. Last week in U.S. theaters, Beauty and the Beast 3D made its way finally after years of talking about it, and it did not reach number 1. It actually debuted at 2nd place at the box office, bringing in about $18.5 million for the 3-day time frame, the regular weekend. Apparently, Disney spent less than $10 million converting the movie to 3D, so they already made a profit just in the first weekend. Number 1 at the box office last weekend was the R-rated movie Contraband. Apparently, it has dropped down further this weekend, even below 2nd place. I don't know the final results because, of course, I'm recording here on Sunday, so anything at this point is still an estimate, but it seems like it's not even going to hold its 2nd place, whereas The Lion King 3D really did very, very well at the box office. Seems like it did better than Beauty and the Beast is going to in 3D, but even so, Disney did make a profit on it and is also currently selling it on 3D Blu-ray as well. Disney this week also announced the launch of a new website called DisneyBaby.com. It's a destination and product showcase for expectant and new parents. So if you're a Disney fan and you've got a baby or you're going to have a baby, maybe DisneyBaby.com is the place for you. Some Disney Store news came out this week. They announced their 2012 plans for 13 new and remodeled locations. It includes another store in Orlando recently. The one opened up, a redesigned store opened up over at the Florida Mall. Now they've announced the mall at Millenia is going to have a newly designed store as well. If you want the full list of all of the stores that'll be either being redesigned or opening up new in 2012, head on over to InsideTheMagic.net. It's all in honor of Disney Store's 25th anniversary year. little bit of business news here. Walt Disney Company Chief Executive Bob Iger, and president of the company as well. His compensation for 2011 was just released. He received $31.4 million as his salary for 2011. That rose 11.9% over the year prior. And Disney's annual shareholder meeting will be coming up in March, and apparently neither Steve Jobs' wife nor a representative from his trust will be on the ballot for the board of directors. Steve Jobs was on Disney's board since the Pixar acquisition back in May of 2006. Of course, unfortunately, he recently passed away, at which point all of his Disney shares passed into the Stephen P. Jobs Trust, held by his family. And that trust is now Disney's largest shareholder with around 137 million shares of Disney common stock. That's about 7.7% of the stock that's out there, valued at about $5.37 billion. So certainly a large portion of the company is being held by this Steve Jobs Trust, but it seems like it will not be part of the Disney Board of Directors. And lastly, here's a TV listing of a new show from Kirby over at bartlett-sloan.net/TV on Monday, tomorrow, January 23rd from 10 p.m. to 11 p.m. on TLC is an episode of The Cake Boss, in which the entire Carlo family will be boarding a Disney cruise ship to help celebrate Buddy and Lisa's anniversary. It's going to repeat on the 24th a couple of times, as well as on the 25th. So there you go. That's it for your news from around the world this week. Here's a real straightforward tip that came in from Mark this week, who writes, if you are planning to go to Walt Disney World or any Disney park or resort for the first time, do your research before you go. I'm amazed when I hear people say they did not enjoy their Disney or Universal trip for whatever reason, be it busy parks or ticket prices or standing in long lines for attractions. Read up before you go. Books, online, listen to a podcast. Thanks, Mark, for that. It seems like an obvious tip, and it's probably obvious for those listening to this show. I mean, obviously, if you're listening to this podcast, you know a lot about Disney parks, but it's a good tip to pass on to other people that you know, because it is indeed surprising how many people are not prepared for exactly what the Disney park going experience is. It's hot in the summer, you know, something as simple as that. If you just look at the weather report before you go, you'll realize that it's hot in the summer. Simple things like that will really enhance your trip to a Disney park if you just set those expectations in the right place before leaving. Everybody else out there, email your tips into tips@insidethemagic.net. And earlier I mentioned that a special fireworks show was put on this week over at Disney's Hollywood Studios, and I do want to talk about that. But first, I've got a wonderful sponsor to talk about. It's a Theme Park Connection, and they've actually got some exciting news coming up very, very soon, possibly as early as a few days from now. Theme Park Connection is expanding already. I know we just told you about their grand opening of their store and warehouse in Winter Garden, about 15 minutes north of the Magic Kingdom, full of Disney collectibles that you can come and browse and buy. Well, they've been doing so well that they are expanding their store already. It's looking great. I was just over there, I think, yesterday, and they've done a wonderful job really putting together a whole new, more organized, well-put-together storefront, and it's really going to showcase all of the rare Disney and theme park items that you can check out by visiting themeparkconnection.com is where you'll find directions to head on over to their store. It's a pretty impressive site when you get there. And, of course, if you're not going to be there in person, you should check out their eBay store as well, where they sell plenty of great Disney items online. And you can find links to that and all the information, again, over at themeparkconnection.com.
Action!
So, Rock the Night was the name of the special one-time-only fireworks show that Disney put on Thursday night at Disney's Hollywood Studios. They, of course, added that as some extra entertainment to Walt Disney World to draw attention away from President Obama visiting the Magic Kingdom. They didn't want Magic Kingdom to be overly swarmed with guests, so the goal was to really draw guests away from that park to other parks, and it certainly worked. It was a good crowd that showed up to Disney's Hollywood Studios to see this fireworks show. Of course, Disney's Hollywood Studios has not launched a regular fireworks show, nightly fireworks show in a very long time. Lately, it's been really just on July 4th and New Year's Eve that Hollywood Studios has put on a show. And so it was a real treat to be able to go over there just a regular night at 7 p.m., and I actually showed up about 20 minutes before the show was going to start. Didn't have to deal with New Year's crowds, didn't have to deal with the July 4th crowds, though a very large amount of people did gather on the main streets of Hollywood Studios to watch the show. They launched the fireworks from areas around the Great Movie Ride and Pixar Place, and coupled with the fireworks was not a pre-recorded track like takes place at Epcot or Magic Kingdom, but instead popular park band Mulch, Sweat, and Shears were playing classic rock hits live on the Sorcerer Hat stage in time with the fireworks. It was truly a wonderful show, and of course, I recorded it, and I want to share it with you here on this show this week, today, in just a moment or two. It was of course, those of you watching a video version, you'll be able to see it. Those of you listening, of course, headphones is a good idea because this presentation of the Rock the Night fireworks, it does feature binaural audio, so you can really be immersed into the whole experience. And I've already posted a video of the whole fireworks show over at InsideTheMagic.net and on our YouTube channel in full 1080p HD, so you can see it there as well. But with all that said, let's not waste any more time here. Let's hop on over to Disney's Hollywood Studios to check out the one-time only special Rock the Night fireworks spectacular.
Tonight, Mulch with Shears! We got more for you, as a matter of fact. Guess what? We've got more surprises. Thanks to Disney, the place of dreams, imagination, and wishes. I agree that you be here.
And there it was, Rock the Night at Disney's Hollywood Studios, a entirely impressive fireworks show. Not your typical Disney fireworks show by any stretch of the imagination, because this one, didn't have that Tinkerbell and Disney sort of magical little touches, and it was an all-out just rock fest. It certainly lived up to the name of Rock the Night, and I completely enjoyed it. It was a good change of pace from the usual Disney fireworks show. Mulch, Sweat, and Shears are always a wonderful performance, and in fact, if you want more Mulch, Sweat, and Shears, all you have to do is stay tuned further in this week's show. I recorded a few of their other songs that they played before the fireworks. They were certainly rocking out beforehand, and that'll be audio only. I didn't record video of that, so I'm going to share that audio at the tail end of this week's show after the listener feedback in the audio only version. So those of you watching the video version of the show, you're going to have to download the audio version to hear Mulch, Sweat, and Shears perform a few more songs. But I really enjoyed it. I wish Disney would do more fireworks shows at Disney's Hollywood Studios. I completely understand why they don't. It was certainly a crowd nightmare on that street. Nobody could move. It was just wall-to-wall people until the show was over, and some people didn't want to stay for the fireworks, and they were having a tough time getting through that crowd. In addition, of course, there's Fantasmic at that park, and a fireworks show would certainly interfere with that show. But if they could do once a week or twice a week fireworks shows, I would certainly love that, particularly if they rolled out Mulch, Sweat, and Shears for every single one. It was a fun experience. I welcome President to come to Walt Disney World anytime if that's the type of entertainment that additional entertainment that Walt Disney World is going to give out. So good job, Disney. Great show. Of course, as I said earlier, if you want to see the show, the fireworks show in full 1080p HD, head on over to InsideTheMagic.net or on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/InsideTheMagic to see it and to enjoy it like I did when I was there. And before we do get to some listener feedback to catch up this week, I've got a quick word to put in about Lanyard Lab. This is, of course, when I'm not doing Inside the Magic, I've got a day job, and that is running lanyardlab.com. And that is the place where if you have got a business to promote, a convention to go to, anything where you need to wear name tags around your neck, be it a school or a church or any organization like that, we can customize them for you. Head on over to lanyardlab.com, click on the Get a Quote button, fill in your details, submit it to us. We'll email you back with a price quote along with a proof showing you what your lanyard design will look like, and you can order it online right there. It is as easy as that. It's free to preview, so check it out over at lanyardlab.com.
Hey, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky. Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hi, Ricky.
Hey, Ricky.
Ricky, this is amazing.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
Inside the Magic listener feedback.
And it is time to try to catch up a bit on listener feedback after not including it last week on the show. For those of you in the chat room right now, I think, let's see, we're only 42 minutes into the show right now, even less than that, actually. So we're going to have probably a little bit of time to answer some questions as well. So if you've got some topics that you have some questions for me, some comments, anything that you want to share, please hold on to that now and wait till I ask you for them in just a few minutes when I get through some emails here, and we'll see if we can field some live questions as well. So first, though, let's jump into the email with Ryan, who's writing in saying, I watched the new Muppets movie, and it felt like I was watching the Country Bears movie, but in Muppet form. I don't know if it's just me or do the two have almost the exact same storyline. Ryan, you're definitely not the first person to make that comparison, though the Muppets movie is far more successful and far more entertaining than the Country Bears movie. But yeah, same sort of save the act, save the theater, save the whatever plot to it. But the Muppets are the Muppets and the Country Bears are the Country Bears, and that plot has been recycled so many times over in Hollywood. It was, the Muppets movie is not about the story or the plot, but really just about the Muppets and enjoying their insanity. And, yeah, so, yes, you are right. No, it does not matter. So thanks for that email, Ryan. Marissa from New Jersey writes in and says, I have one question/curiosity. Would you happen to know of any way or source to find out where the characters would be located in parks and times? Like, is there a schedule time map or a website of sort aside from asking a cast member. Well, Marissa, character appearances are for the most part scheduled in advance, but your best bet is to certainly, when you get there, look at the times guide that Disney provides at the parks. They'll and of course the park maps themselves often detail which characters are which. Not every single one specifically necessarily, but that is a good resource certainly there. If you want to find such a thing in advance of going, I can't think of a website off the top of my head. I know there is a website that details live entertainment in the park, as far as where and when you can see that, and you'll find that at wdwent.com. I'm not sure if they have characters in addition to the live entertainment offerings as well. They may be included there, so you might want to check that website out. Of course, that's for Walt Disney World only, so that's one that I could recommend. Hopefully that helps a little bit. Next up, an email from Zach, who writes, my family and I are going to start planning our annual Disney trip soon, and I just wanted to ask some questions. Usually we stay at Port Orleans French Quarter, but lately we've been thinking about staying at the Polynesian. I was wondering what you thought about that resort and if it's really worth the extra money. Also, I know the resort is Hawaiian themed, so is there an abundance of Lilo and Stitch around the property? I ask because I'm a big Stitch fan. Please don't shun me. And I just wanted to know what to expect. Well, Zach, I love the Polynesian Resort. Definitely one of my favorite Disney resorts. Well worth the extra money, especially since Disney upgraded the rooms a few years ago. Very comfortable. You'll love walking around there. The beach is great. The pool is great. The amenities are great. The lobby is great. I just love the food is certainly great. You get Dole Whips over at it's a good place to be. Lilo and Stitch, not so much. You'll find a little bit here and there, but it is not a Lilo and Stitch hotel by any means. You'll probably find some Stitch lingering around, but you're not going to find an overwhelming amount of it. Next email comes in from Jade, who writes, I have listened to your Ear in Review with Paul about 5 times now, and it's great for listening to at work because it's so long and there's so much covered that I can listen to it over and over without getting bored. Anyway, to the point, your comments on Disneyland, Connect Disneyland Adventure surprised me. For Xbox, I had thought that a lover of Disney parks and the amount of detail that goes into the parks, like yourself, would have really enjoyed the game. It was only on reflection that I realized why I love it so much, and perhaps you don't. Yes, the controls can be a pain. The pointing to walk is a particular issue, but for people like me and my family who live in the UK, the game is a dream come true. It's a trip to the park on our TVs when we can't afford to fly thousands of miles to be there in person, whereas you guys can take a trip anytime. So you naturally would scrutinize it more. When I first pointed my character down Main Street USA, I could have cried with joy. It was almost like being there in the flesh. I love free-roaming games, and since we don't get to visit the parks for years at a time, then this game is the next best thing. I only wish there was an option to ride through real attractions. Some of the rides work, but most are mini-games. And more so, I wish they would do it for Disney World parks, especially Epcot. Just wanted to add my thoughts, and I can see why the game would bore people who have access to the real thing, but those of us who don't have that pleasure, I think the game is a wish come true. Well, Jade, I definitely understand your point, and I think you have a somewhat valid point there. I totally appreciate the ability to virtually explore the Disney parks when you can't be there. In fact, that's the feature of the game that I touted the most. I knew that people like you who can't go to the parks as often as I can would love that aspect of it. My biggest problem was exactly what you said, was the controls were clunky, and then the mini games were just kind of dull. I was really hoping for more in those respects, but perhaps I didn't emphasize enough how incredibly detailed and realistic, in a cartoony kind of way, the virtual exploration of Disneyland is through Connect Disneyland Adventures, and for that alone is a reason why I would recommend it for big Disney Parks fans. So thanks very much for that email, and now let's head on over to a voice message.
Hi, my name is Natalie, and I'm calling from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm a big fan of your show, although I just started listening to your show last year while I was planning my first trip to Walt Disney World, which we went to in September of 2011. My boyfriend and I are currently planning a trip for Disneyland in September of this year, and I was very dismayed to read your article online reporting that Electronica was being replaced this summer with a Mad Hatter themed street party. Tron is my boyfriend's favorite Disney movie, and Tron Legacy is one of my favorite Disney movies, and we are very excited to see this attraction. I'm now trying to see if we can swing a short trip to Disneyland in April for my birthday, since my boyfriend will be out that way for a conference anyway. I was wondering if you knew the exact date that Electronica will hold its last show. Thank you, and I just have to say this, have a magical day.
Thanks very much for that call. I am certainly a big fan of Electronica as well, and unfortunately, I do not have any specifics to give you. I can offer some Tron music here in the background if that helps at all. But no, seriously, I actually did ask after receiving your voice message. I asked Disneyland rep if they could tell me a more specific time frame as to exactly when Electronica would be ceasing to exist and the grid would be closing up, and in order to be replaced by that Mad Tea Party. And all they could tell me was it'll run through spring, sometime in spring, and they haven't apparently set a specific date yet. So even the April date that I had reported apparently is not officially official quite yet. And it's just one of those things where trip planning is incredibly difficult at this point if your goal is to see Electronica, because Disney has not announced the actual end date for it yet, which is unfortunate, because I know there are plenty of people like me, like you, who would be eager to see it once again without having, sort of, I planned a trip for April and then it's closing the week before and all of that kind of thing. So if I hear anything, when I hear anything, I will certainly report about it here. In the meantime, I will play some Tron music here in the background, some of that wonderful Daft Punk score from Tron Legacy, and we can all enjoy. Moving on, next email from Brandy, who writes, I am writing to say I love the Ear in Review. I know you whine and fuss every year and say you need a new co-host, but I must disagree. I love the Ear in Review. I listen to all 2, 3, 4, or 5 hours of it. You and Paul really do play off each other well, and you make me smile. I listen to your podcast while I jog, and I got to say, every January you start my New Year's fitness resolution off right with a long Ear in Review podcast that takes my jog a long way. It takes several jogs to get through. So Happy New Year, and thank you for the Ear in Review. Brandy, thanks very much for that email. I've gotten a number of emails similar to yours, and all joking aside, yes, I was, during the show, playing around with Paul saying, why do I have you on the show and I need a new co-host and all that. None of that is true. I absolutely welcome Paul Berry to Inside the Magic for our yearly show, and have no plans on replacing him, and he likewise hopefully has no plans on replacing me. It is our show together. The Ear in Review is something that we've been doing for obviously several years now, and it's our thing. So don't worry. As far as I know, it's not going anywhere, and I'm glad you enjoy it. Next up, an email from Janet, who writes, after listening to your podcast, I decided to watch Mars Needs Moms, and I agree with the fellow who wrote in about it. I really liked it. What great animation and a nice story. I loved George, and I would watch it again. It was so much better than Rango. Well, Janet, good to hear. I still have not sat down to watch Mars Needs Moms, but now after his email, who had nothing but praise for it, and after your email where you said it was great, I am going certainly to give it a shot, and I'll see if it is as good as you say, and not as bad as everybody else was saying. Largely due to the trailer. The trailers made it look like a very, very bad movie. Of course, it did really poorly at the box office. That doesn't help, but I will gladly give it a shot. Hey, here's a little bit more Tron. Good thing I'm still playing the music in the background. Anthony writes, just a quick thought. What do you think about a possible Tron-themed attraction or pavilion at Epcot? I think it would be a perfect replacement for the Wonders of Life pavilion. They would need to do some retheming, but I feel a computer-based pavilion would blend seamlessly into the current lineup of Epcot Future World pavilions. Anyway, I just thought, love the show, especially the Ear in Review. Anthony, thanks. I'm glad you enjoyed the Ear in Review, and I'm not the right person to ask about this. If you ask me, what do you think about a possible Tron attraction anywhere, anytime, I'll say yes, go for it. Do it, please, because I love Electronica. I love what they did with that, and I would love to see more coming out of the world of Tron and Tron Legacy. Realistically, if I'm thinking as a at-home Imagineer of sorts, World Wonders of Life is potentially a good place for it. Of course, it's just sitting there essentially doing nothing at this point. It's used for, Flower and Garden Festival and things like that, but it's not a full day-to-day working pavilion, and it would be great to have a new pavilion set up, not only sort of Tron-themed, like you said, but also a great idea to sort of emphasize that computer aspect of it. It's been a while since Disney built a new pavilion at Epcot that had that sort of educational feel, like they always did with Wonders of Life and the land and everything else, and the old World of Motion, and they've really steered away from that, and I'd love to see them get back to that and sort of emphasize on technology and computers and that whole world. Of course, they'd have to be careful with the world of computers, and that they didn't venture into that old astuter computer review, although they could have sort of a retro thing, and I think a lot of Disney fans would enjoy that. Regular guests going to the park would probably roll their eyes and say, what in the world is this? But anyway, my opinion, great idea. Everybody else's opinion, maybe not so much, but hopefully we'll see some Tron make its way into the park somewhere, sometime beyond Electronica. Next email comes in from Randy, who had some interesting things to say about a recent visit. Randy writes, "My wife and I are just wrapping up a week-long visit to Walt Disney World. While we always have a good time, some observations of concern. The general upkeep of the parks and attention to detail was diminished this time. Lots of trash in the River of America, visible from the deck of the riverboat as we took the trip. Looked like it had been gathering for a while. Hundreds, if not thousands, of cigarette butts along the sidewalk first thing in the morning between the Contemporary Resort and the Magic Kingdom. Would have expected it to be cleaned up overnight. My wife experienced two filthy women's restrooms in Epcot, one at the American Pavilion and one at, well, you say the Horizons building. Perhaps you mean Mission Space. Anyway, continuing on, as DVC members, supposed to get fresh towels and trash pickup halfway through the stay. That didn't happen. After illuminations proceeded straight to monorail, was told the monorails for the resorts were not running, so we had to take a bus from Epcot to the Contemporary. This was not the issue with the monorail stopping 1 hour after closing. No reason given as to why the monorails in the resort route weren't running. Magical Express had our old address, sent our tickets and tags there, and as it turned out, when you update your address in DVC, it doesn't automatically update all your reservations, so you can't view and edit them until you're within a few days of your trip. And still, lots of friendly service by people we came in contact with. One wonders if there just isn't fewer of them, and that's why things were not as we have come to expect. If it wasn't Disney, you probably would just expect this level of quality, but it is. Again, overall, we had a very good time, but it is disheartening to see the slippage. Well, Randy, I'm sorry to hear you've noticed so many poor things around Walt Disney World. I'm on regular visits, I tend to not see those things, I guess, because I'm focused so much on everything that's around me. I suppose I don't have the normal sort of vacation woes. It seemed like most of what you were discussing there, as far as walkways between resorts and towels and monorails and all that kind of thing, is not part, and Magical Express, not part of my usual visits to Walt Disney World, so I don't see those things. So it is, a little disheartening to hear that those types of aspects that are all part of a Disney vacation are perhaps not always up to Disney standards. So hopefully, it's one of those things where Disney will fix it up. Maybe you just had a few run-ins with some bad days. Who knows? Certainly worth seeing if your next trip will improve things. A few more emails here, still playing catch-up on the listener feedback. And next up is one from Ed, who writes, "Great year in review this year. I listened to the entire podcast straight through while editing a particularly dull photo shoot, and it was awesome. Photos turned out better as well due to you and Paul's entertaining banter. Anyway, a question and a tip. A question, are you planning a meetup for Leap Day? My daughter and I are going to try to do the 24 hours. This may include some napping in various attractions. And online, Disney says select attractions will be opening. Any guess as to which ones?" And the tip was to enjoy online Disney music over at visionsfantastic.com. So, Ed, thanks very much for that. To answer your question, maybe. I haven't decided what I'm going to be doing for that Leap Day yet. I'd certainly like to take part in it. I don't know if I'm going to make it the full 24 hours in the park. I may give it a shot, 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. the next day on February 29th. If I do have any kind of a meetup, it'll probably be sort of an unplanned, hey, everybody's here, follow me on Twitter, here I am, let's go ride some rides together, together. As you said, select attractions will be open. I imagine during the day it'll be the full regular amount of Magic Kingdom attractions, but then overnight, after what would normally be closing hours for the park, that's when they'll probably limit it to certain attractions here and there in order to have a chance to, do the necessary overnight cleaning and such that they need to do. So I guess we'll have to wait and see on all those details. No firm plans for a meetup quite yet, but I do hope to be there. Next email from Jose writes, first off, love the podcast. First time writing in, been listening since episode 280. I wanted to ask you a question about Universal Studios. With the recent closure of Jaws and at the current pace that Universal is tearing down old rides to make way for new ones, do you think the E.T. Adventure ride could be next on the Universal chopping block? I could see them getting rid of E.T. for a possible clone of Transformers that they're building in Hollywood. Jose, great question, and E.T.'s been rumored to be sort of next on the chopping block for a long time, and yet Universal seems to keep finding ways of getting rid of other attractions. Jaws was certainly a surprise. Despicable Me is replacing Jimmy Neutron, which replaced Hanna-Barbera years ago, which I still miss. I definitely loved that Hanna-Barbera attraction. And, I don't think I would miss E.T. all that much. It's certainly one of my earliest memories of visiting Universal Studios. It's a good ride, but it hasn't really held up necessarily over time. I don't know. It's not one that I have a real attachment to personally, and I could definitely see that being on the chopping block. However, I haven't heard any, let me rephrase. I have heard more rumors toward Terminator 2 going away rather than E.T. next, which I would definitely be disappointed about. I would much rather have E.T. go away before Terminator 2. So, I don't know. One of those things you can never predict, especially when it comes to Universal, what they're going to do next. Seems like they have no rhyme or reason as to what they're going to close and what they're going to open. Just all over the place and hope for the best. Here's another email referencing the Ear in Review. Susan writes, thanks for a great Ear in Review. I had an 8-hour drive to Vegas from Northern California and enjoyed your podcast to help pass the miles. I wanted to comment on the year-end review. You didn't mention the Legends performances of the princesses and the tribute to Jim Henson. I thought those were worth the price of the expo alone. I'm a huge Lea Salonga fan, and it was a special treat for me. Remind everyone that recording of your recording of those performances can be found on your website. On the subject of Avatar at Animal Kingdom, I want to remind people that the strange partnership with George Lucas. When Star Tours opened, while not an entire land, the Disney-Star Wars connection is as strong as ever, bringing fans of both together every year with Star Wars weekends. Even the Michael Jackson pair-up project Captain EO was popular enough to make an encore. So fans should take a wait and see attitude, because all the great things don't always start at Disney, but lots of them end up there. Well, Susan, I'm surprised to hear that we actually didn't mention the princess performances and the tribute to Jim Henson as part of the Legends ceremony. I could have sworn we mentioned that in the Year in Review, but of course we talked for 4.5 hours, so it's entirely possible that we just managed to skip over something. So, yes, the princess performance video has been extremely popular since I posted it from the expo, and definitely one worth seeing for anybody who has not. And with regards to Avatar, you're right. Sort of a wait-and-see approach is a good way to do it. We will certainly wait and see how Avatar comes together for Disney. Just a couple of more emails here. Brad writes, this summer my family is trying to plan a trip to Walt Disney World for my mom's birthday. She has 4 sisters, and we don't all get together all that often. The problem seems to be my grandmother. She is 83 years old and can get tired easily, but she does enjoy walking. Do you have any tips or advice for activities that she would enjoy, or things we can do to make her trip more magical? I've also heard rumors that Peter Pan's flight is getting an interactive queue. I hope this is true, because it's definitely in need of a new queue. Well, Brad, thanks very much for those emails. Let me talk about Peter Pan first. Yes, it does seem like the queue is in progress, something I probably should have mentioned in the news section earlier. Lots of construction going on in that area over at the Magic Kingdom, in addition to the regular Fantasyland expansion that is well underway. The part of the Peter Pan queue has been walled off already. Parts in the former Skyway building area have been sort of demolished and are being demolished and reworked, and it seems like the bathrooms that are over by Peter Pan are being moved over there by Skyway, and then there will be more of an interactive Peter Pan area to be installed. What exactly that will be, we don't know. Don't know when it's going to open, but it does seem like that is indeed moving forward. With regards to your 83-year-old grandmother, there's plenty for her to enjoy around Walt Disney World. She may not be up for a ride on Rock and Roller Coaster or the Tower of Terror. If she enjoys walking, that's certainly a good thing. There's plenty of walking to be done. Going around Epcot to the World Showcase, all the different country pavilions there is a great way to not only walk, but also see lots of interesting exhibits and entertainment, live entertainment, get some great food. There's a lot of slow-moving rides at Epcot as well, probably a good park for her, but that's not to say all the other parks aren't good as well. Disney's very accommodating when it comes to anybody who has any kind of mobility issues. They'll slow down or stop rides in order to get on and off. If she's got to be an electric vehicle or a wheelchair at some point, you can get a hold of those in the parks as well. They're very, very accommodating when it comes to all of that. There's no reason why your grandmother, though she may be a little bit slower, can't have just as much fun as everybody else in the parks. Final email, and before I get to this one, I will say, even though we're now over an hour here in the show, I do want to still field any questions from the chat room that you might have, so go ahead and throw those out there now while I read this last email, if you have any, and we'll get to just a handful of them before wrapping up this listener feedback here. Brian wrote in and said, I enjoy listening to your podcast each week and look forward to hearing about all the latest and greatest news from Disney. As you have talked about in the past, Cars Land will be opening this summer at California Adventure. Although the new land already looks fantastic, I have been very skeptical on the decision to dedicate such a large section of the park to one movie franchise. The new land is quite massive and leaves very little for any expansion of future attractions non-related to Cars movies. This would also go along with the recent decision of creating Avatar's Pandora at Animal Kingdom. Do you believe it's a wise decision to dedicate a large section of a Disney park to one movie franchise? Brian, personally, I don't know. Cars Land looks like it's shaping up really, really well, but I'm not a big Cars fan to begin with, so it'll be interesting once we get in there and really walk around to see if it really appeals to those like me who are not big into cars but still will enjoy the environment. Of course, the obvious comparison at this point is to think about Wizarding World of Harry Potter over at Universal Orlando. It is one large land dedicated to one franchise, and it is hugely successful, but that's Harry Potter. Cars is not Harry Potter. Avatar, well, Disney's maybe thinking that that will be their version of Harry Potter. I don't know. We'll wait and see. I have no problem personally with dedicating a huge area of a park to one franchise as long as that franchise is big enough and interesting enough to support it. Cars certainly has an interesting enough Radiator Springs area where it seems like it'll be fun to walk through there, but I don't know. We'll have to. I'll wait and see. Just a few months from now, maybe 5 months from now, June seems like when it'll be opening up, and we'll see if walking through Radiator Springs, particularly when it's all lit up at night, if it really gives you that magical feeling, or if it's just like, it's Cars. We'll wait and see. All right, let's jump to the chat room now and answer a few questions here before wrapping up the listener feedback. I am scrolling up here and seeing what people have asked while I was responding to Brian's question. And this is always so hard because the chat room keeps moving and there's lots of colors. Let's see. Somebody asked, when is the Art of Animation opening? That's Drum AXD asked that. Art of Animation will be opening in phases. I believe May is the first phase for the first wing, and then it's going to kind of be every 2 months for the next wing and the next wing and the next wing, and there's going to be 4 wings total. So by the end of the year, all of the Art of Animation Resort out here at Walt Disney World will be open. Steve76 in the chat room asks, what will the new Peter Pan queue comprise? How will it be interactive? No idea at this point. It's sort of one of those out there things that Disney hasn't officially confirmed yet. Could be like the Haunted Mansion queue, interactive queue, where they said nothing about it until it was just kind of open. Tikified Tweets asks, how was the security at the Magic Kingdom the day Obama was there? I was actually not there personally. I was kind of following it online, following it via Twitter and people who were there, but from what I understand, security was certainly tight around Main Street and Cinderella Castle, but other than that, it was not too bad. It was pretty simple to get in and out of the park, just a usual bag check, and because they had walled off the area where the president was going to be, they felt like it was safe enough to just have a regular security day, which, is pretty secure to begin with, and all went off without a hitch, so that is always good. Disney Dan 8641 asks, what are the park crowds like in Disneyland in July? Well, this is the answer pretty much for any Disney park. July is going to be summer. and it's going to be crowded. That's pretty much all you have to know. It's already crowded just about every day at Disneyland. Lots of locals go to that park, even more so in the summer when everybody is out of school. So, yeah, you can count on it being rather crowded in summer. Michelle Tate Young asks, what's the latest on Fantasyland? And I probably haven't been updating that nearly enough. Construction is moving on very, very well over in the Fantasyland expansion at the Magic Kingdom. The Dumbo that we've known it for so many years has closed. It's being moved over to Storybook Circus, the future Storybook Circus, to have the double Dumbo over there. They've also been hard at work on developing constructing the circus tent interactive queue area that'll be part of the new Dumbo attraction over there. The Be Our Guest restaurant's coming together very nicely. Little Mermaid building shaping up, lots of rock work, lots of painting going on, and it is definitely moving along, but it's a while away. It's still quite a few months before any part of Fantasyland has a chance to open. Let's see if we can grab a couple of more questions here before wrapping up the listener feedback. I know there are many more here. Let's see. Cool Cats 304 asks, will other parks become Connect Adventures, and when will the Harry Potter Hollywood open? Well, two questions that I have no answer for. They definitely have not said any indication that they plan on expanding Connect Disneyland Adventures to Connect Walt Disney World Adventures or any other park for that matter. The video game, from what I understand, has been rather successful, but I'm not sure if they'll move it on past that. And as far as Harry Potter Hollywood, there is no time frame for that whatsoever. They haven't even started construction. In fact, they haven't even really announced specifically what is going to be there. So your guess is as good as mine at this point. Let's just do one more question here. I'm sure I missed some, and I apologize for that, but I do want to wrap up this listener feedback. So this most recent question, Thomas Hind123 asks, do you think they'll put on cool entertainment on Leap Day, the 24-hour day at Disneyland and Walt Disney World, or Magic Kingdom specifically? Yes, Disney has said that they will have some sort of special entertainment to be added to the parks during that 24-hour day. What exactly that means, if it's characters, if it's live performances, if it's who knows? Yes, they'll be doing something special for the 24 hours that they'll be open. And yeah, we'll leave it there. That'll do it for listener feedback this week. That almost wraps up show 355. If you're watching the video version of the show, this will be the conclusion in just a minute or two. For those of you listening to the audio version, however, as I promised earlier, I'll be including a few extra songs from Mulch, Sweat, and Shears that they performed prior to the special Rock the Night fireworks over at Disney's Hollywood Studios a few nights ago on Thursday night. So you can stay tuned and enjoy that. But before we get to that, I do want to thank Magical Travel for sponsoring this week's episode of Inside the Magic. You can find out more about their services by visiting magicaltravel.com. I also want you to visit themeparkconnection.com. They're expanding very, very soon. If you've been to their store, if you went to the store at the grand opening, give it another week or two. Go back to their store here in Winter Garden, Florida, just north of the Magic Kingdom, about 15 minutes north. You'll find a whole new expanded section, which is really, really exciting. Of course, they've got their eBay store as well. Check it all out over at themeparkconnection.com. And visit us over at lanyardlab.com to see all the different styles and custom lanyard options that we have available. You can request a price quote today to receive a free digital preview of your lanyard design. And, of course, between episodes of this podcast, visit InsideTheMagic.net. It is your source for Disney and theme park news. Not only each week's show notes, including links and background music is there, but also all of our podcasts, videos, photos, news, and articles, and much more. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube to keep up with all the latest and greatest Disney and theme park fun. So thanks to all of you for listening and for watching each and every week. Again, those of you listening to the audio version, enjoy a few more songs from Mulch, Sweat, and Shears, and have a magical week. Bye.
That's the start. He follows his dream with mind and heart. And when